I'm not coming back. I've met someone better, and your things are already in storage. My name is Nathan Cole. I'm 50, and I was standing barefoot in my kitchen in Austin, Texas, staring at that message on my phone. It was 11:26 p.m. on a Friday. My wife, Camille, was supposed to be halfway through a wellness retreat in Sedona with her girlfriends. The message came with a screenshot. A transfer of $162,000 from our joint investment account into an unfamiliar personal checking account, hers. I didn't get angry. I didn't scream. I didn't even reply right away. I just poured myself a glass of whiskey, leaned on the counter, and stared at the text like it was an equation I'd already solved. You see, I'm not just any guy. I'm a risk analyst. Numbers, patterns, digital footprints. That's what I do. I'm trained to spot what doesn't fit, to plan for the worst case scenario and build a plan B, and C, and D. And I had. There were signs. There always are. Subtle at first. New clothes I'd never seen again. Trips that got extended by an extra day without warning. Yoga classes that started overlapping with dinner. Then came the silence, calls ending abruptly when I walked into a room, a locked phone face down every night, the sudden urge to reconnect with herself. I noticed everything, but I didn't say anything. That was by design. I picked up my phone and sent a single reply. Understood. Then I opened my laptop, logged into an account she didn't know existed, and initiated the first step of a process I'd quietly put together over a year ago. I called my brother Malcolm. She made her move, I said simply. You ready? He asked. I've been ready, I said. Initiate the fire break.
I met Camille Barnett at a corporate mixer in Chicago. I was 36, newly promoted, and entirely consumed by my career. She was 31, a yoga instructor with a side hustle in essential oils and a magnetic energy that made people gravitate to her. She was stunning, clever, and entirely disinterested in the intricacies of my work. I don't need to understand what you do, she said on our third date, as long as you're passionate about it and it keeps the lights on. We moved fast, married within a year. Camille had dreams of opening her own wellness center, and I made that happen. Invested a large chunk of my savings, even pulled from some stocks I'd been sitting on for years. It's just money, I told myself. We'll make more. And we did. My consulting firm boomed, and she rode the wave of the wellness craze. Meditation packages, hot stone retreats, clean eating challenges, it all took off. I was proud of her. At least I was back then. Camille had always had a taste for the finer things. Designer bags, luxury resorts, imported teas. I was okay with it, because I could afford it. But my dad pulled me aside one day during a fishing trip and said, "Son, just make sure she loves you more than the lifestyle." I laughed it off at the time, but it stuck. About 6 years into our marriage, I began to diversify. Quietly, not financially. Our portfolios were already strong, but legally. I opened new trusts, split our holdings into smaller entities, set up separate liability shelters. Nothing shady, just protective. She still had access to our joint accounts. That was the key. I wanted her to believe she had it all. I didn't need to hide everything, just enough. Because by then, I'd started seeing more than red flags. I saw the whole parade. Her Instagram went from calm meditations and green smoothies to resort backdrops and luxury spas. There was a guy who kept popping up in the background, sometimes a blurred hand on a wine glass, a shadow in a mirror. I reverse searched one of his tagged photos and found him. Jace Merritt, personal trainer, influencer. Definitely not just a friend. That was 8 months ago. I didn't confront her. Instead, I created a separate ledger, tracked every time she dipped into our joint accounts, every business expense that conveniently coincided with his travel posts. She was building an exit. What she didn't know was that I'd already built mine.
The morning after Camille's message, I was up before the sun. Old habits die hard, even when your marriage does. I brewed a cup of black coffee, sat down in my home office, and logged into my personal risk control dashboard. What looked like a budgeting app was actually a custom-built system I'd been developing for years, something I originally designed for clients, then tailored for personal use. I typed in a command and watched the protocol activate. Step 1. Freeze all joint assets: checking, savings, credit cards. Step 2. Flag the $162,000 transfer through my banking network as a suspicious transaction. Not because I expected to reverse it, though I might, but because it needed to be documented. Step 3. Notify Olivia, my lawyer. She already had the file. She just needed the green light. The divorce paperwork was submitted by 9:47 a.m. I called my mother around noon. She knew something was wrong the moment she heard my voice. She left, I said. There was a pause. With someone else? I didn't respond. She took the money too, didn't she? My mom asked softly. I nodded, though she couldn't see it. Moved it while she was supposed to be on her girls' trip? I'm sorry, Nathan. I'm not, I said. Not anymore. An hour later, Camille called. I let it ring. Then she texted. Camille, what did you do? The money's frozen, and I can't access anything. This is insane. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove to the self-storage facility listed in her message. I used the access code she'd so helpfully sent me to retrieve 2 boxes of my belongings, some clothes, old books, and a laptop she never used. Everything else, gone. Family photos, my grandfather's war medals, even the wooden desk my dad built with his own hands. That was the moment it clicked. This wasn't just betrayal. It was erasure. She wasn't leaving me. She was trying to rewrite the story as if I'd never been there. I stopped at a coffee shop I used to visit before our life got expensive. Sat by the window with my laptop and opened a secure connection to one of my private databases, one of the few tools in the world that could pull financial overlays using cross-platform metadata. I typed in Jace Merritt's name. In less than a minute, I had everything: business filings, property holdings, lease agreements, tax inconsistencies, co-signed loans. What I saw didn't surprise me. It confirmed everything. Jace's fitness business was deep in the red. He had 3 maxed out credit cards, a defaulted equipment loan, and an active IRS lien. And 2 months ago, Camille had co-signed on a brand new Audi SUV, registered in both their names. I even recognized the model. She told me it was a loaner from the wellness center's sponsor. I closed my laptop and felt something shift inside me. Not rage, not heartbreak, just clarity. She'd been funding their fantasy life with our money. She saw me not as a partner, but as an ATM with a wedding ring. And Jace? He was using her just the same. Monday morning, I walked into my office like it was any other day. My assistant, Marlene, looked up, brows lifting. Nate, I thought you were off this week. Plans changed, I said. Camille call here? Twice, she said. Sounded urgent. Something about accounts being frozen. If she calls again, direct her to Olivia. Around noon, the building receptionist buzzed my line. Sir, your wife is here, and she's very insistent. I stood up, straightened my jacket, and walked to the lobby. Camille was there, in full performance mode, perfect makeup, sleek gym wear, expensive sunglasses perched on her head like a tiara. She smiled as I approached. The same smile I'd seen for years. The one she used whenever she wanted something. "Nathan, we need to talk," she said, loud enough for the entire lobby to hear. "There's been a huge mistake at the bank. All our accounts are frozen." "Not a mistake," I said evenly, quietly. "You transferred money without authorization. The bank flagged it as potential fraud." Her smile cracked for just a second. "It was our joint account. I'm your wife." "You're my soon-to-be ex-wife," I replied, "who emptied our savings while telling me over text that you'd met someone better. That's called financial misconduct." She lowered her voice. "You can't do this to me. I've already signed on a new place. I've made commitments." "To Jace Merritt?" I asked, calm as ever. "Yeah, I know." She blinked. "You're investigating me?" "Number, I'm protecting myself." "I'll fight this," she hissed. "I deserve half of everything." I looked her dead in the eye. "Half of what's legally declared and traceable? Sure, but you seem to think that's all there is." Her eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "You'll find out during discovery," I said. "Your attorney should walk you through it." I turned and walked back to my office, leaving her standing there in the middle of the lobby. Her performance had found no audience. Back at my desk, I saw the email come in 10 minutes later from her freshly hired attorney. Subject line, urgent, financial disclosures request. The body of the message was filled with vague threats, implied wrongdoing, accounting irregularities, a demand for immediate transparency, or else we will escalate. I forwarded it to Olivia with one line: "Proceed." By sunset, I'd already received 3 text messages from mutual friends. "Why are you being so cold to Camille?" "She's devastated, Nate. What happened?" "I heard she had to cancel her new lease." "That's not like you, man." Not one of them asked where she'd been for the last week. Not one asked how $162,000 suddenly vanished. I didn't respond to any of them. I drove to a small gym I'd been going to for years. Nothing fancy. No influencers. No designer gear. Just iron, sweat, and silence. I lifted until my arms shook, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something close to peace. 3 days later, Olivia called. "We found something," she said. I already knew what was coming, but I asked anyway. "What is it?" "Camille's been siphoning funds from the joint account for over a year. Small transfers at first, then larger ones. Most of it was disguised as wellness business expenses." "To where?" I asked. "Some to her personal savings, but the bulk of it funneled into a newly registered LLC, Wellness and Fitness Branding Company. Guess who the listed partner is?" I didn't need to guess. "Jace Merritt." "Bingo," she said. "So far, we've traced over $94,000. And all from our joint funds? Every dollar. We've got more than enough to add financial infidelity to the divorce motion." I thanked her and hung up. I wasn't surprised, but confirmation has a way of making the betrayal sharper. It wasn't just that Camille left. It's that she'd been plotting it, strategically, systematically, long before the girls' trip text. She was using me to bankroll the next chapter of her life, and she hadn't expected me to read the script in advance. That night, I got another message, this one from an unknown number. "Back off. Camille deserves better than you. Don't make this uglier than it needs to be." No signature. But the arrogance, that was all Jace. The next morning, I drove to Malcolm's house. My brother wasn't just family. He was the guy who helped tech companies lock down sensitive infrastructure, firewalls, digital forensics. The kind of skill set you want on your side when things get messy. I need everything you can dig up on Jace Merritt's businesses, I told him. Bank accounts, credit pulls, collateral sheets, the works. Malcolm raised a brow. Above board? As far as the law allows, I said. We're not hacking anything, just connecting public dots. 3 hours later, we had it all. Jace wasn't just in debt, he was drowning in it. On paper, his business looked clean. Flashy website, slick branding, motivational posts. But the financials told the real story. Over-leveraged, multiple loans, and almost no actual income. His equipment lease was 6 months behind. His studio's rent had been deferred twice. The only reason it was still afloat? Camille. She'd been the financial engine behind the illusion, but then Malcolm pulled up something we hadn't expected. Check this out, he said, pointing to his screen. He applied for a small business loan a few months ago, used some high-end fitness equipment as collateral. Standard, I replied. Sure, but look at the cosigner. I leaned in. Camille, she'd co-signed a $210,000 equipment financing deal. And not just that. The loan documents named spousal assets as additional security, which meant she leveraged our marriage to secure a business loan for her boyfriend? Exactly, Malcolm said. And that's not the only one. There's a commercial lease she backed using the marital residence as reference income. She also added your name, without your knowledge, to a revolving line of credit. I stood up and paced the room, hands on my hips. Outside, kids played in the yard next door. I stared at them for a moment. They had no idea how complicated adults could make things. She has no clue what she's done, I said finally, and neither does he. Malcolm nodded. The real question is, how far do you want to take this? I didn't even hesitate. All the way. The next morning, I met Olivia at her office and laid everything on the table. Documents, screenshots, emails, credit agreements with forged digital signatures. She reviewed them in silence, her pen tapping against the armrest. We move now, I said, before they realize what we've uncovered. She nodded. We'll file for emergency asset protection by noon. The loan fraud alone justifies a freeze on everything until the divorce is finalized. If the bank verifies your claim, it'll trigger a repossession timeline. That afternoon, I drove to Jace's gym. It was everything you'd expect from an influencer haven. Neon signs with fake deep quotes, smoothies for $15, Lululemon and Rolexes under one roof. I walked past the reception desk and straight through the workout floor, ignoring the stairs. Jace saw me immediately. He walked over, wearing a tank top so tight it looked like it was sewn on. Tan too even, teeth too white. Nathan, right? He said, flashing that Instagram perfect smile. Camille's mentioned you. I'll bet she has, I replied, not offering my hand. We need to talk. He glanced around, hesitated for just a beat, then led me to his office. Glass-walled, stylish, soundproof. What's this about? He asked as he closed the door. I pulled a folder from my jacket and placed it on his desk. This is everything that connects you to Camille financially. Loans, credit cards, co-signed leases. All made using my marital assets as security. He flipped through the first few pages, his brow tightening. I don't understand. It's simple, I said. She used our marriage to back your failing business. But we're getting divorced. That means those guarantees, invalid. The bank won't be happy. His face lost color. These are all legitimate arrangements between Camille and me. Maybe, but the banks approved them because of my income. my name, my credit, none of which she'll have access to anymore. He looked up. What do you want? Nothing, I said. This isn't a negotiation. I just thought you should know what's coming. The banks will be calling those loans due. Fast. Camille said you're loaded, that you wouldn't care. Money's never been the issue, I said. Trust is. I turned to leave but paused at the door. One more thing. When Camille left, she took personal items, my father's watch, family photos, sentimental things. I want them back. He stared at me, expression unreadable. I'll see what I can do. I nodded and walked out. The next morning, a courier dropped off a plain cardboard box at my hotel. Inside, my father's watch, a stack of old photographs, and a few other items Camille had taken with her. No note, no apology. Just the things. That same afternoon, Olivia called to confirm the emergency asset protection order had been approved. Everything was frozen. Personal accounts, business credit lines, even the disputed crypto portfolio Camille had been dabbling with. I logged into my system and saw the alerts. Camille had attempted to access our frozen accounts 17 times in the past 24 hours. She'd also tried to open a new line of credit using our primary residence as collateral. Denied. Then the call came. I almost didn't answer, but this time I did. Her voice was shaking. Nathan, what the hell did you do? The bank just called. They're seizing Jace's gym equipment tomorrow. All of it. You're ruining us. That's unfortunate, I said calmly. This is vindictive, she snapped. You're doing this to get back at me. I'm not doing anything to him, I replied. I'm protecting myself. From you. You can't just kill his business like this. You used our marriage to secure his loans without my consent. That's illegal, Camille. It's fraud. We can work this out, she said quickly. Her voice softened. Just come home. Let's talk. Please. Even after everything, she thought she could pull me back in with the right tone, the right rhythm in her voice. Like I hadn't spent the last year watching her lie. There's nothing to work out, I said. The divorce is proceeding. The fraud investigation is active. And Jace, he's about to learn a very expensive lesson in due diligence. I ended the call, and then I blocked her number. That night, I slept better than I had in months. 3 weeks later, we met for court-ordered mediation. Camille walked in with her attorney, wearing a beige pantsuit and her old confidence like it was freshly pressed, but she looked tired, hollow almost, like the cracks in her world had begun to show. Her lawyer started. My client is willing to negotiate a fair settlement despite the aggressive posturing from your side. Olivia smiled politely. That's good to hear, because there's been a development. She slid a document across the table. The bank completed its fraud investigation. They've concluded Camille forged Nathan's authorization on multiple financial documents, specifically the business loan and revolving credit account. All of it leveraged with marital assets, without his consent. Camille's attorney paled as he flipped through the pages. We'll need time to review this. Of course, Olivia said, but you should know the bank has already referred the matter to the district attorney. This mediation is a courtesy before criminal charges are pursued. Camille's eyes snapped to me, wide and panicked. Criminal charges? Nathan, you're not serious. I held her gaze. I didn't file anything. The bank did. That's what happens when you commit loan fraud. Her attorney leaned in to whisper something in her ear. She shook her head slowly, like she was just beginning to understand the depth of her mistake. If Ms. Barnett is willing to sign our proposed settlement agreement today, Olivia continued, Nathan is prepared to submit a statement to the bank clarifying that he will not personally pursue additional criminal or civil claims related to the stolen funds or unauthorized transfers. Camille sat perfectly still. I watched the moment it all hit her, when she realized there would be no rescue from this, no last-minute pivot. The settlement is generous, I said quietly but firmly. You keep your wellness brand, what's left of it. You keep your personal belongings. You walk away with no alimony and full responsibility for any debt you incurred in my name. She said nothing. And Jace, she finally whispered. Olivia didn't miss a beat. Mr. Merritt's financial problems are his own, but without Nathan's backing, we understand the banks have already started repossession proceedings, equipment, vehicles, commercial lease, all of it. Camille signed the papers. No objections, no last-minute arguments. Just a signature that felt like the final nail in the empire she thought she was building. As we stood up to leave the room, she touched my arm. I never thought you'd fight back like this, she said. Her voice cracked. You always just went along with everything. I looked at her. That was my choice. Just like this was yours. I walked away without looking back. A month later, I moved out of the hotel and into a small, modest house near the outskirts of Austin. Craftsman style, solid foundation, a place with a garden and creaky floors. Not glamorous, not expensive, just mine. I spent the first week ripping out the old carpet and fixing the porch swing. Malcolm came by with a six-pack and helped me install shelving in the garage. We didn't talk about Camille. We didn't need to. Through mutual contacts, I heard Camille had moved to Arizona. Somewhere quiet, probably to rebuild. Her Instagram had pivoted again. This time it was desert sunsets, vague quotes about healing, and pictures of smoothies I knew she didn't actually drink. Jace's gym, sold to a corporate chain in a liquidation deal. He moved to Florida, tried to rebrand last I heard, but the shine had worn off. Neither of them mentioned what happened. Of course they didn't. No one ever posts their failures. One Saturday, Malcolm dropped by to help mount a TV in the den. You really let her off easy, he said as we cleaned up the tools. You could have taken her for everything. The fraud alone could have buried her. I shrugged. She's not my problem anymore. We grilled steaks and sat on the back patio, watching the sun go down. There was no noise from across the fence, no Instagramming neighbors, no sound of glass walls echoing my own loneliness. Just wind, cicadas, and the clink of ice in a glass. Later that night, after Malcolm left, I sat alone with a drink in hand. I thought about the last 10 years, about how easy it had been to ignore the red flags, to prioritize comfort over confrontation. I thought about how long I'd prepared for the fall, because some part of me knew it would come. And yet, when it did, I didn't collapse. I adapted. I didn't feel victorious, or cruel, or vengeful. I just felt free. The next morning, I called the office and told them I'd be taking 2 weeks off. I packed the truck, left a note on the counter, and headed north. No destination, no schedule, just the road. And for the first time in years, no one draining me in the background